Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah, and I'm an astrologer in Toronto, Canada. I'm just sending this out for my newsletter community. I uh, I know you guys realize we're having a full moon tomorrow, a Taurus full moon opposite a Scorpio sun, and I wanted to talk a little bit about what that feels like for me, at least how I'm perceiving it. So I'm just going to open up my screen and I'm going to share a couple of charts with you. Hold on a second. I don't have a lot of time this morning, so I want to just take you through this look. Now, first of all, I want to start at our new moon that was 2 weeks ago on November 1st. And I want to point out the fact that the new moon was very isolated, okay? It was a new moon conjunction at 9 degrees of Scorpio, trining a Saturn in Pisces. So at the new moon, the energy of how we like how we were coming into the new moon, it felt very much in control. Like it didn't feel disruptive to me. It felt really strong, right? It didn't feel alarming. It felt deep, like we were going to have to go deep, but it wasn't. I didn't realize what was coming at the new moon. I didn't have a feeling of foreboding or menace. Now, what has since unfolded has been unbelievable for all of us. I mean, there's just been this eruption of insanity and dark things coming to light. And I want to point out at the moment of the new moon that there was a lot going on in the background, okay, that might not have been quite on the surface when the seed came in for the new moon, but in the background, what we had was this giant grand trine of water between Neptune, Mars, and Mercury, all pointing to making a kite to Pluto. So we had a Pluto exact opposition to Mars, which is a very, very tight kind of an eruption of will and power and disruption of power and use of will or misuse of will. There was a thematic that was behind the scenes in the new moon. We also had a kite to Uranus. And this kite to Uranus and the kite to Pluto have been themes in the background. The other theme that's been playing in the background is Pluto sextiling Neptune, sextiling Uranus. So all three of the sort of the transpersonal planets, these planets that govern great changes in the collective and more of our higher faculties or more collective faculties or universal principles. These were all these have all been sextiling each other for the last couple of weeks. So there's this activation that's trying to happen on a higher level, trying to proliferate down and impact the normal me. So I think for a second, I want to just describe what Scorpio is. Scorpio is the place of intersection between our normal egoic self and our soul. It's the place where we come into contact with all the patterns or all the desires or all the needs that our ego self, our separate self, our little me self has inside of it, all of our trauma, all of our feelings, all of our reactions, all of our fears, our insecurities, our jealousies, our bitterness, whatever we got going on in there in that emotional place that we call kind of dark and shadowy, that's the ego. And then in Scorpio, the tests of Scorpio have to do with facing those parts and realizing that there is another option, that there's a higher part of us or a soul part of us that is stronger than those little me parts. And that if we can just hold our power as those shadow parts erupt and fight for supremacy, that we will, through the use of our will, through the proper use of our will, and through holding the line of our higher self or holding our will and our focus without attacking, without objectifying, without minimizing, without criticizing, without overreacting, just holding that focused point of willingness to be what we essentially are, what our true self is, rather than all of the chaotic reactions that are going on. If we can just hold that focus, then the soul burns through that chaotic emotional field and we come into true power. Okay. So what has been happening in the last 2 weeks is a lot of underlying underbelly stuff has been coming to the surface. And all of it's coming to head tomorrow. So the full moon, this is the full moon chart for tomorrow. It's coming in at 3:47 p.m. approximately. I mean, it's hard to know by the minute, but around 3:50 in the afternoon. So it's a later in the day full moon. So you'll feel it kind of coming on through the day, and then you'll feel it crystallizing. Eastern Standard Time, late afternoon, Pacific Standard Time at around 1:47 or 12:47, so around 1 in the afternoon. And we have now what's happened is the sun has moved on from 9 degrees to 23, and the moon is at 23 Taurus, and it's conjunct that Uranus. So whereas before at the new moon, the only planet conjunct or impacting the new moon was Saturn. So it felt very strongly self-centered. We were in control. There wasn't a sense of instability or other realms in the equation. It was very personal. I remember my seed was very personal. I felt this is what I want. There was not really, it was really like, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I want to activate. And now it couldn't be further from the personal. We've got Uranus on the moon. We've got Neptune sextiling Uranus. We've got Pluto trining it. We have all the transpersonals kind of activating here, right? We've got a trine to Pluto, a sextile to Neptune, and a conjunction to Uranus. So like personal be damned, like this, there's something much bigger afoot that has happened in the last 2 weeks. If you look back over the last 2 weeks, there have been fundamental changes in the collective field, fundamental changes in your personal reality. You cannot go back to the way you were prior to 2 weeks ago. It's impossible. The rifts, the changes, the transformations, the realizations, the illuminations. I am not suggesting this is easy. In fact, for me personally, it has been probably 2 of the hardest weeks I can even remember. I'm in so much agony. It's like being in a liminal space. This is what it feels like. Being inside of a very half dark, half light space, like as if we were at dusk, okay? As if we were in the dusk zone where the light is very dim, but it's still there, so you can still see. And I'm in this dusk zone, and I'm like dealing with all of these eruptive parts of me, these shadow parts, these emotional parts that are continuing to, like, they're trying to pull me, and I'm trying to hold my center and stay in alignment and will myself through them without like collapsing into chaos. It's excruciating. I mean, and I'm very sensitive, so I pick up the collective field. It's happening personally, it's happening collectively. It's all of us, right? We're facing these dark, dark corners, and and life is saying, can we feel safe with what we're seeing? And the reality is, no, we can't. There's so many things going on that we can't feel safe with what we're seeing. So where do we find safety? And Uranus and Taurus on that new moon, or on the full moon, sorry, tomorrow, is saying the only place we can find safety is in our alignment, our higher self. Uranus is a funny archetype because if you're just in your ego, Uranus feels like crazy, okay? It feels like chaos. It feels like discord. The intention of Uranus is to help us individuate into our divine line or into our higher self. When you're in the higher self and Uranus is impacting you, it feels like intuition. It feels like universal energy. Okay. So it feels like pennies from heaven, as Deborah would say. There's this energy of like an electromagnetic impulse that comes down into the body, and you feel calm because you know that you're hooked up. So Uranus is sitting on our full moon tomorrow saying, are you going to be in the crazy or are you going to be hooked up? Because whatever it is we're seeing, it's not changing. It's reality. We're seeing what's real. We're seeing the reality. Okay. And it may be ugly. You might hate it, but we're seeing it. How are you going to make sense of it? How are you going to feel safe with it? How are you going to feel secure with it? There's only two choices. Either you succumb to the crazy and you go into paroxysms of reaction pattern and emotional overwhelm, Or you try to come into your clear self and you make choices to move forward in your best position possible. That's it. You move forward in the best position possible. That's it. So the last 2 weeks have been quite surprising. I don't think that the new moon with our little happy Saturn there trining that new moon, I don't think I had any idea what was about to happen. And now looking back, I'm like, oh my goodness me. This has been a ride. This has been a big bite. And we have all bit it. And whether you are feeling elated because of that and liberated because of that, or whether you are feeling overwhelmed and terrified because of that, the invitation tomorrow at the full moon is to see reality as it is and choose, am I going to align with my higher self and look at this, or am I going to just be caught in the insanity and look at this? So this is kind of how I am interpreting tomorrow's full moon. I'm sure there's more I could say. For instance, the Pluto opposite Mars that has been for the last 2 weeks. I mean, talk about excruciating, like talk about this balancing act between trying to react, but yet pull in the reaction and try to align the reaction. Like it's such reactive behavior. It's such a reactive field right now. I just want to say there's a heat. You want to be very careful about impulsivity. I'm trying to give myself this advice, right? I like to really calm the system down, cool it down, come into center, be honest, be truthful, trust life, trust yourself, trust the universe. That's all I got, guys. I'm in the mud of this. I'm in the mix of this. I hope you guys are good. I tend to feel these things very strongly, and the things that I've had to look at in the last 2 weeks, I can't even tell you. But it's been a big bite. So good luck with this full moon. I hope you see what you are meant to see so that you can come to peace in yourself. Thank you.